What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's video. Hope everyone's doing well. Another rainy day here in Michigan. We've been getting a lot of rain lately. I don't remember it being this much rain coming down this season, but yeah, it is what it is. Freeways are flooding. It's crazy. Hope everyone's staying safe and not getting as much water as we are. But let's go ahead and begin. In this video, I'm kind of almost completely finished, but I wanted to go through the steps that it took to install this OLM EZ Dash Mount here. So let's go ahead and begin. Obviously it's not going to be an in-depth installation, but I'm going to show you all the stuff that I had to do to get to where I'm at now. The final piece that I'm waiting for is just a little magnetic mount, and that's going to be coming later today. So I will put that at the end of the video when everything's completely buttoned up, so that way you guys know how it looks. So to start with, the easy side is the passenger side. You need to drop your glove box and remove it. If you've never done that before, it's really easy. Just open it. On the right hand side, there's this plastic piston. All you need to do is either squeeze the end of it with your fingers, or if you don't feel like doing that, squeeze it with a pair of pliers and then pull this piston to the right and out. Once it's out of the way, you can pull it up a little bit and keep it out of the way. Next step, on each side, so right and left, you'll need to pull. Some people like to pull it together all at the same time. I do it just one at a time. So I started on the right hand side. Just take the glove box, pull it inward and pull out at the same time. And just pay attention to this lip here. You'll see that it'll go over this lip, so off the track. Repeat on the opposing side, and then you'll actually be able to lower it even further, and then just pull and the glove box will come right off. If you need to change your cabin air filter, now would be the perfect time because it's located right here. You have to do the same procedure if you were doing that. So, all right, and you're not going to be able to see it really good, but in here you see that yellow wire. If my memory serves me correctly, which is funny because I just did this, I believe it's a little bit above it, but you'll see a 10mm bolt. You will need to remove that. Just be very careful. You probably need an extension. It's 10mm. You need an extension to get to it. I didn't need a swivel for that side, but it comes out. Just be careful because you don't want to drop it. If you drop it, I'm sure it'd be a pain to find, which will lead to a funny story here in a minute. But let's go to the driver's side now. That pretty much covers the passenger side. Now, in the driver's side, you'll start right here. Normally there's a trim piece right here. There's a Phillips head screw. Remove that right at the bottom right. Once you remove that, you can put your hand around this area, and this is where I started to pull and pry from. And I just used my hand. I was able to wiggle it around to separate it from this piece, and then just gave it a good yank and it pulled right out. The rest of it's just retaining clips. Everything came out pretty smoothly. There is a interior temperature sensor here, so just be careful of that. I don't think anyone's going to pull towards it, so you shouldn't have to worry, but just in case, don't try to pull it that way. You don't want to damage that. It's encased in with a lot of plastic, so shouldn't be an issue, but thought I'd bring it up. And that'll gain you access. You can see there's some light. Normally there's another screw right there, a bolt, 10mm, and that's the really hard one because it's angled, so some people recommend using a swivel attachment for your socket, 10mm. Now mine, the bracket itself was loose, but more importantly, there was no screw there. And this is the hardest side, so I found that weird, but it does make sense. Ever since I got this car, it would off and on rattle during a morning cold start. Now, since I've been pro-tuned, I don't have the cold start anymore, and it hasn't really been a noticeable issue, but from time to time when I'm going through my rev ranges, every once in a while I might hear a rattle. So, you know, I'm going to take a moment before the magnet gets here, and I'm going to try to inspect around here to see if I can find it, because that's got to be it. And that's weird, right? It was already gone. Now, Once you do those, and this doesn't have to be in any specific order, but I like doing the harder work first, which would be just bending over and doing the lower portions. Now, once you get those done, you just have this vent piece here, and this is really easy. You just take a pry tool, and I attacked it from the bottom right. Just put it in between, pried it a little bit, wiggled it, didn't force anything, just wiggled it. Kept wiggling it until it popped out of place. I was able to get my hand on it, and I was able to pull up and away, and that was easy to remove. And it gives enough slack so where you can just curl it over, and you don't have to worry about it damaging the plastic, just because there's no parts that stick out really awkwardly. As long as you're not like sliding it around, just gently set it up there and you should be fine. That'll expose two 10mm bolts, 1 and 2. Remove those. And then once you got those 4 in total bolts removed, you just pull and remove. If you need a better tutorial on that, just search WRX radio removal. There's plenty of examples on YouTube that go way further in depth, but that's just my take on it. Once you get that out, you'll be able to pull it out enough to where you should be able to disconnect your connectors. I was able to, no problem. The only thing that was a bummer is it kind of like swung down really quick, so just be careful. If you don't, you can get some minor scratching. That can happen. Luckily enough, I should be able to just get some cleaner and should take care of those. So not too worried about that. It definitely wasn't as bad as I thought. Like if I just get a wet rag and go over it, it really clears it up. So it was very minimal scratching for me. Very lucky. But if you care about that stuff, you know, just maybe put some painter's tape or something over it to help protect it. Now, onto the mount. Here it is, the OLM EZ Dash Mount. All this work for a silly mount, but in my opinion, it just looks the best as far as positioning, and when it actually has a device mounted to it, it just overall has a very clean aesthetic. I like it. In fact, I just liked it better than having my access port over here. But, you know, everyone's a little different. It's just my personal preference. I think it looks the best. I don't like the suction cups. I've tried them, and granted they can work, but I just don't like how it looks. Same thing with the vent mounts. I've never been happy with those. This seems like it should be a good solution. Now, the quality of the bracket itself is okay. The paint job isn't that great. If you care about stuff like that, I would recommend sanding it down and having to plan on sanding it down and throwing some fresh paint on there. It could have been way better. There's a lot of blemishes that are very clearly visible. Here's the pre-drilled holes, and they're not perfect either, but when I searched this on YouTube, I could really only find one other guy that did it, and he did it for his airlift kit, and the imperfections on his are the exact same as mine. So maybe that's just the way it is. So overall, I wish the quality was a little better, but for about $25 before tax and shipping, it's really not too bad. This is where the self-tapping screw goes. I haven't really seen, I think on Reddit maybe someone described that they put it right here, but it already has this little dowel right there, so that should hold it fine. So I figured right here, and then the added pressure of the climate controls, the trim, and the radio should keep this in place. But once I added that self-tap, it became ultra sturdy, but it was still already pretty sturdy. As you can see, it got a little bit of play, very, very minor, but once I put the radio in there, we should be pretty good to go. And then I've ordered the little, what is it, that Scotch, the one that you can find that you can add on if you go to Subi Speed or Import Image Racing. I got mine from Import Image Racing. Thanks, Dane. Super quick shipping. I was actually supposed to get this tomorrow, came in a day early, yada, yada, yada. Much appreciation. Always takes care of me. But yeah, I'm going to put that there. It's going to come later today. And you can put anything there. You know, you put your phone, you can put your Cobb access port, whatever you want. So I'm going to do access port. I like to keep my phone tucked away and just connected with USB. But yeah, that's pretty much what it takes to get this little guy installed. So throughout this whole process, is it worth it? I think so. I mean, it didn't really take me too long to get to where I'm at right now, but it just depends. Like, I've taken apart an STI before, the interior, so I was pretty familiar, and it's exactly the same. from a 2018 that I had worked on before. So it just depends how comfortable you are with it. It really isn't that bad. Just take your time with any plastic interior pieces. Just get the proper tools and don't force anything. Just, you know, wiggle it around a bunch, try to figure it out. And there's plenty of YouTube tutorials that really help with the interiors in these cars. So it's really not too bad. So would I recommend it? Yeah, it just depends if, you know, you're unhappy with other mounting locations and you prefer to have it right here. I like the idea of it being right here because it stays out of the way of all your controls, but also visually it looks pleasing, very easy to spot, etc., etc. I just like it better. Even though it's on this side, it stays out of the way of the passengers' leg room, so really no issues there. And in fact, they could technically still see that if it was mounted, so if you're doing some logging and you needed someone to help you for some reason, they'd be able to point out critical things for you, or you can just have them push the log button for you so you can just focus on driving. Whatever you want to do. But yeah, so the last steps that I have to do is wait for that magnetic mount to come in so that way I can attach it to it. I'm going to put all this stuff together, or back together first, and then before all that though, I'm going to take my cob access port wire, and they give you plenty of length right off the rip, so I'm going to fish it through and just tidy it up, but I'm going to pull it through here and then try to find a nice clean way to lead up to the mounting location. Maybe be able to run the wire down and tuck excess maybe under this trim piece, this kick pad. So we'll see. But all right guys, I hope you enjoyed that portion of the video, and I will be right back once that mount comes in and I'll show you the finished product. All right, so the magnet came in, so here is the finished product of all that work. I think it looks pretty good. Here's kind of what it looks like if you're like passenger side. And the viewing angle is really good. You just glance over. There's all the info. So I'm super happy with that. I like the way that it turned out. I got the cable just kind of going underneath this kick guard here. So if you can see, it's right through. And it goes right behind the stock radio. And then I got it leading out, cable managed over the steering, and then back under, and zip tied in 2 spots to keep it tucked. And it looks like a pretty clean professional install. Can't tell that it's there. So really cool. And again, you know, that spot isn't a bad location. Like if you're sitting driver's side, glance over, maybe rock a little bit over, but you can see it just fine. So it is good enough. It's definitely more stealthy. When it's right here, it's definitely more noticeable. So if you plan on doing that, maybe I'll find a different way to store it instead of, because I don't like the idea of having it just the cable hang there. So maybe I can come up with a different storage solution. I've seen one guy put a magnet, a neodyme magnet under here, and just pretty much, I think 3M taped it. So you're able to just quickly tuck it. And yeah, so that's it. I think it looks really good. I think it's worth the cost. I wish the quality of the actual mount itself was a tad bit better, but you know, no complaints. It does what it's supposed to do. It's just something that if you are building the car and want it to look like 100%, then I would recommend sanding it down and touching it up with a little bit of paint. Just because even with this mount affixed to it here, I have like some bubbling right there, which you might not be able to see on this camera. You might not, but it is noticeable in person. And even on the passenger side, you can actually see some paint missing here on the edge. So it's just kind of up to you on how nitpicky you are. But otherwise, that is it, and I am super happy with it. So yes, I would recommend it. It is kind of a pain to tackle, but when you're all said and done, you definitely feel really good about the install. So that's it. That is the OLM EZ Dash and a 2021 WRX. Hope you guys have a good day, and I'll catch you in the next one.